Hello, and welcome to another lesson from Level Up Mathematics. In today's lesson, we will be exploring unit rates. Before we do, let's review what a rate is. So a rate is just a ratio that compares two quantities with different kinds of units. So an example of a rate might be 100 words in 2 minutes. So notice our units in the numerator is words, and the units in the denominator is minutes. So we're comparing two different kinds of units in this rate. Now, a unit rate is a special rate. When a rate is simplified so that it has a denominator of 1, it is called a unit rate. So if I were to take the rate from our first example, 100 words to 2 minutes, and I simplified that and divided 100 by 2, I would get 50 words per minute. This would be an example of a unit rate, all right? In example 1, it says for each rate shown below, circle it if it represents a unit rate. If it's not a unit rate, rewrite it as a unit rate. So example A says apples are $3.99 per pound. So this is an example of a unit rate because it's telling you for 1 pound of apples, your cost is $3.99. So I'm going to circle it because we don't need to do anything to it. Problem B, 140 calories for 7 ounces. Now this is a rate, but it's not a unit rate because for it to be a unit rate, we would have to know how many calories for 1 ounce. So if you take 140 and divide it by 7, that would be 20 calories per ounce. I'll just abbreviate ounces. Now it's a unit rate, all right? C, a submarine descends at a rate of 10 feet per second. So this is an example of a unit rate. In 1 second, your submarine will descend or go down at a rate of 10 feet per 1 second. All right? 24 miles in 2 hours. Now this is a rate, but it's not a unit rate. For it to be a unit rate, we would have to know how many miles in 1 hour. So 24 divided by 2 would equal 12 miles per hour. Now it's a unit rate. All right. Now, there's a couple ways we can find unit rates. The first way we're going to find unit rates is we're going to use a ratio table to scale each rate so that it has a denominator of 1. The other way to find a unit rate is with division. But we'll do the ratio table first, and then on your assignment, you can choose which way you'd like to use. Now, the key to a ratio table is scaling your number to friendly numbers like 2, 5, 10, 100, things like that. All right, so let me give you an example of how it's done. Shampoo is $12 for 20 ounces. So we're going to take our cost, $12 for 20 ounces. And what we want to do is scale that 20 down to 1. And to do that, I'm going to use friendly numbers. Like in this case, I'm going to use 10. Because 10 is half of 20. So if I take half of 20, I must also take half of the 12. Now, once you have 10, it's easy to scale 10 down to 1 because all you have to do is divide by 10. Let me write that down, what I'm doing. Divide by 10. So if I divide 10 by 10, I get 1. If I divide 6 by 10, I get 0.6. So now that I've scaled my denominator to 1, I have my unit rate. So it's 0.60 cents per ounce. And I'll just abbreviate ounces. Okay. A brand of sunscreen is $3.20 for 5 ounces. I want to know how much for 1 ounce. So I'm going to take 320 over 5. That's my first rate. Now, from 5, my goal is to go to 1, but I don't want to use long division. So I will scale it to 10 first. So to scale it to 10, that means we had to double it or multiply by 2. So if I double $3.20 and I double that, that would be $6.40. Now, the reason I scaled it to 10 is because 10 is very easy to scale by 1 because all you have to do is divide a number by 10. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. $6.40 divided by 10, just move your decimal in one place, and you'd get 0.64. So this would be 64 cents per ounce. All right. Crowns were $11 for 4 boxes. So our cost is 11 over 4. Now I'm going to scale this down to 1. So if I take half of 4, that would be 2. And if I take half of $11, that would be $5.50. Now, once you have a denominator of 2, it's easy to scale that to 1 because all you have to do is divide by 2. Now, $5.50 divided by 2. Half of $5 is $2.50, and half of 50 cents is 25 cents. So this would be $2.75. So it would be, the cost would be $2.75 per box. A family traveled 140 miles in 2.5 hours. So there's your original rate. I want to scale that to 1, but first I'm going to scale it to 5. That's a friendly number because all I would have to do to scale it by 5 to 5 is to double it. So if I double 140, I get 280. Now 5 is easy to scale to 10 because all I have to do is double it again. So 280, if I double 280, I get 560. Now, once you get to 10, now you can easily scale to 1 by dividing it by 10. So 560 divided by 10 is simply 56 miles. So we can go 56 miles per hour. All right, it takes 450 inches of steel to make 300 springs. So here's our original rate, 450 inches over 300. Now, I'm going to scale this to 100 first because all I would have to do is divide by 3. So 450 divided by 3 is 150. Now, it's easy to scale from 100 to 1 because all you have to do is divide by 100. If I divide 150 by 100, I get 1.5. So this would be 1.5 inches per spring. All right, Ryan walks 1.2 miles in 25 minutes. So 1.2, 25. All right, I'm going to scale this to 100 because all I have to do is multiply it by 4. So 1.2 times 4 would be 4.8. Now, it's easy to go from 100 down to 1 because all we would have to do is divide by 100. So 4.8 divided by 100, just move your decimal in 2 places, and you'd get 0.048. Miles per minute. So that's one way to find a unit rate, is is to take your original rate and scale it by 1 through the use of friendly numbers like 2, 5, 10, 100. Okay. Now, a second way we can find unit rates is with long division. So look at example 3. A store sells 12 pairs of socks for $15. What is the price per pair of socks? So we're going to take $15 and divide it by 12. So I will use long division here. How many times will 12 go into 15? So 12 goes into 15 one time. Put my decimal. 12 goes into 32 times. That would be 24. Subtract. Bring down. Add another 0 here. 12 goes into 65 times. So this would be $1.25 per pair of socks. Brian pays $22.10 for 2.6 pounds of salmon. What is the price per pound of salmon? So I'm going to take $22.10 and divide it by 2.6. But remember, a divisor must always be a whole number. So I'm going to multiply these both by 10 to get 221 divided by 26. And then I'll find that quotient. So 26 goes into 221. So I'm going to make a little ratio table here. 1 times 26 is 26. If I double that, I get 52. I'm trying to figure out how many times 26 will go into 221. If I double that again, I get 104. If I double it again, I get 208. I better not go any further. Let's say 26 goes into 221 8 times. So 8 times 26 is 208. If I subtract, I get 13. So I'm going to have to add a decimal and a 0. So I'll bring down the 0. Now I want to note how many times 26 will go into 130. So I know 4 times 26 is 104 from my ratio table. But, what if I added the 1 and the 4 together to get 5? And if I added the 26 and the 104? 104 plus 26 is 130. So I know this is a 5. So 5 times 26 is 130. So the price per pound is $8.50 per pound. A home printer prints 48 black and white copies in 1.5 minutes. The same printer prints 20 color pages in 2.5 minutes. What are the rates in pages per minute for black and white and color printing? So let's do black and white first. Black and white copies. So our original rate here is 48 copies in 1.5 minutes. Now remember, your divisor must be a whole number. So I'm going to multiply those both by 10. And this is what we'll divide. So we want to know how many times will 15 go into 480. So 15 goes into 48 3 times. 3 times 15 is 45. Why did I write 44? 45. Subtract and bring down. 15 goes into 30 2 times. So the black and white is 32 pages per minute. I'll just abbreviate minute. Okay, the color copies. The original rate was 20 pages per 2.5 minutes. So I will rewrite this as 200 divided by 25. So let me make a ratio table. 1 times 25 is 25. If I double that, I get 50. Double that again, I get 100. Double that again, I get 200. So 25 goes into 200 8 times with the remainder of 0. So this would be 8 pages per minute. And that concludes today's lesson, unit rates.